Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk. I'm Tracy Morgan. Always nice to have you with us. Of course, this is our half an hour. We break from the music for just a little bit and sit and chat. That's why we call it Let's Talk, and it's fun to do it. Today we're with Lisa Gard, of course, owner of Specialized Staffing, and we're going to talk to her in just a moment. But always, as your reminders, if you have to be mobile today, you do have the free app with WISR 680. Just plug that right into your smartphone in the Play Store, and that app should come up. Just touch it, of course, moments later. It'll be on your phone. If you like to listen to us with our stream, if you're at your computer and you just want to listen to it throughout your work time, then just go ahead online at WISR680.com. You click the button Listen Live, and that's how you're going to get this stream. If you want to go back online and listen to this all again later, you can do that. If you are busy and don't have the pencil and pen ready, you go on and listen to our podcast of the day, WISR680.com. Pick programs, then Let's Talk, then Let's Specialize Staffing, okay? So let's do it that way. All right, so Lisa Gard, how you doing today?
Doing great, Tracy. How about you?
Oh, doing well, doing well. So I love talking to you, but I always feel guilty because it feels like I'm finding a new job. Because that's what you do. You get people new jobs, and you get them to go to in another direction if they so choose. And you do such a great job at it. But I want to talk to you about working with recruiting firms, because it's one thing that, yes, I've had many jobs throughout my life, but I don't think I've ever come to a recruiting firm. And I'm wondering what we don't know about recruiting firms and why we shy away from them.
Well, it's funny. I hear people voice some frustrations when they work with recruiting firms, and I'll share those and some solutions to them. But what to expect when you work with a recruiting firm? We just understand what we do. We are paid by companies to identify the best fit for the current positions they have open. So we're working on behalf of the customers, which are the companies, in identifying, people to fill those roles. So it's important to understand that while as a candidate you're getting a service, and it's a free service, the customer really is the company. So sometimes I hear people who are frustrated saying that they met with a recruiter and they didn't hear anything back from the recruiter. And I think, while that's very frustrating, I think we've all searched for jobs and didn't hear back, and that is frustrating. But I think it's important to understand when you're working with a recruiter that they're representing hundreds of candidates at a time. And I think it's most important to keep in mind that we as recruiters only get paid if we place you. So it really doesn't benefit us to just not get back to you for no reason. It really does benefit us, however, to be working more on identifying potential customers to introduce you to than it does calling you back and letting you know that we don't really have anything for you at this time, because neither of us get paid if we do that. So I think if you kind of keep that in mind, you might understand a little bit more. But I think the answer to that, though, is do not hesitate to call your recruiter and update them. If your status is changing, if you picked up a new skill, if you added some volunteer work to your resume, do not hesitate to call your recruiter and update them. But it's very hard for a recruiter to get back to every single candidate consistently, especially when we're letting you know that there isn't anything there for you. Does that make sense?
It does, but what I still think, as somebody in my position coming to Specialized Staffing, a recruiting firm, I'm the one that gets the benefit. I know now that's just through my lens, because of course I'm the one searching for the job, right? I know the company would get the benefit, you would get the benefit, because there is pay involved. The company would get an employer. But for me, who's searching for a job, I'm coming to you and it doesn't cost me anything.
Exactly. And I think it's so important to keep that in mind. When people are frustrated because maybe a recruiter isn't getting back to them, it is so important to keep in mind the what's in it for you is that the service is completely free to you. So when there is an opportunity that matches exactly what you're looking for, that recruiter will absolutely call you, and you do benefit. And there are some other benefits too, Tracy. I'm glad you brought that up. When you work with a recruiter, you interview with that recruiter, and from the very beginning, you're benefiting in getting feedback from that recruiter. So the first thing we see is your resume. Hopefully you have an updated resume, and it's in the right format. And when we take a look at that resume, we can advise you on ways to improve your resume, whether that's just changing the format. When we talk about a resume format, there are two very popular resume formats. There's a chronological format, which is a reverse list of positions that you've held. So that really highlights your actual experience, your most recent job first, kind of details what you did in each position. And that really serves to highlight your actual hard work experience. Then there's a functional resume format, and the functional resume format highlights the skills you bring to the table. So it's more of it looks more like a menu. It has bullet points of the things you bring to the table in terms of your experience, but also maybe your education, your natural skills and abilities. So this doesn't speak to the actual jobs you have as much as it speaks to what you bring to the table that might be appropriate to the job you're applying for. And that's most appropriate when you're looking to change careers. So just for the sake of giving you an example, Tracy, you're in radio and communications, and if you decided to change your career, let's say you went back to school and you got a degree in medical coding, and you decided you wanted to go be a medical coder now. If you sent me a resume, or you sent anybody a resume that was looking for a medical coder, and all they saw on it was your radio experience, you're not going to be as attractive as the candidate whose resume does show the medical coding experience. So what you would want to do is change your resume to the functional format that would highlight your education up front, what intern work you may have done, what skills and abilities you have, that you're detail-oriented, that you know this computer software. Does that make sense?
It does, and I'm glad you brought that up, because sometimes I think it can be frustrating for individuals who do want to change careers. And you make a great example of how drastically different, broadcasting and medical coding would be. And for anybody who wants to do something different, and let's say they've been in the workforce for 20, 25 years, do you find people have a lot of frustration because maybe they don't want to go back to school, can't go back to school? Maybe they did, they just feel like they can't find a job?
Yes, and you bring up my next very important point. So when you're meeting with a recruiter can advise you on communicating that story, that reason why you want to switch careers. And again, that's just a benefit that you have of a candidate that is working with a recruiter, as opposed to just sending your resume blindly to companies. Because again, you can send your resume and your cover letter to a company saying, hey, I'm Tracy Morgan. I've, for the past 15 years been in broadcasting, but now I want to do this. And that's fine. A lot of times you won't hear back, because unfortunately your resume and cover letter is landing right next to the person who says, hey, I've been in medical coding for the last 10 years and I'm looking for, to expand my career in that field. When you work with a recruiter, the recruiter is actually introducing you to the client. We're actually making a phone call and we're saying, hey, you know what? I met with a candidate today. She has a background in broadcasting, but let me just tell you about, the degree she just got and all the work she's been doing. Let me tell you about what her references had to say about her. And we can get your foot in the door a little bit easier than you can on your own. And we can help you kind of tell that story. We can help you overcome the barriers sometimes. And so, again, that's just another benefit for you in working with a recruiter. This is what we do for a living, so we can help advise you. But when I say that, Tracy, I also have to throw in there, sometimes you're just not qualified for the position that we have. I also hear people that are frustrated because I applied, and even though I don't have the degree and I don't have the experience, I can do it. I have the ability to do it, but I didn't get the job and I'm frustrated. Well, it's okay to be frustrated, but you have to understand there are closer qualified candidates out there. So sometimes it is to your benefit to rethink what you want to do. Sometimes maybe what you have in mind just isn't going to work because there are better qualified candidates. And again, we can advise you. These are your skills, your abilities, your most valuable experience. And if you want to make this much money, this is the type of career path you probably want to stick with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're talking about giving advice to people. Again, through my lens as the person wanting to get a job, there's so many benefits because, again, it doesn't cost me any money to come to you. And then you can help me along the process, getting the foot in the door, as you will. But there's that other benefit that I think you're talking about, which is the counsel or the advisory role, because I'm sure that you get many people, and this is the question I want to ask you, is it okay to come in and say, but I don't know? I mean, when you ask me, what job do you want to go to, what field do you want to change to, or what job would you like next and for what reason, I'm going to sit there and say, I'm not quite sure. So can you help me when I don't know?
In a limited capacity, we can. One of the benefits is some free career advice, but we're not trained career counselors. So, there may be benefit to actually seeking counsel in that respect from a career counselor. However, we can look at your resume and we can tell you from our experience and from our client perspective, these are the opportunities we have that you would be most qualified for. We can certainly direct you that way. And again, like you said, that's another benefit. There is a little bit of free career advice that you get when you're working with a recruiter. And the other thing too, the other benefit is if you're currently working and you don't have a lot of time for a job search, this is a one-time meeting. You go in, you meet with your recruiter, you fill out some paperwork. A lot of it's done in advance over the computer now, and it's one meeting. And once you have that meeting, you actually you're considered for any position that comes across our desk for as long as you want to be considered. So you're not having to continuously keep searching, physically searching on your own. You have a recruiter that's actually doing that. And again, I go back to that's part of the reason why we aren't always calling our candidates back to update them. We're busy calling potential clients to see if we can find a place for you. So that's another benefit.
And I think it's always easier to hear the good and the bad news first from you. If you're telling us honestly with constructive criticism, this may not be the direction because of X, Y, and Z. I think it's a little easier as somebody trying to get a job that you're telling me instead of the person that I want to be hired with.
Yep, absolutely. And you bring up another great point. We will get back to you. So let's say you come in and you apply and we introduce you to one of our clients and you go out and you interview with them and you don't get the job. We will actually give you very specific feedback as to why you didn't get that job. As opposed to if you go and you interview on your own, oftentimes all you get is an email, if you even get that, or a letter in the mail saying thanks but no thanks. We'll actually call you back because we get feedback from our clients as to why. And normally it's just that there's a better qualified candidate beside you. So they go with the more qualified candidate. But we will come back and we will advise you. If that means you have to, maybe enhance your computer skills or, overcome some of the questions that maybe you didn't answer quite, overcoming barriers, things like that. A good example of a barrier is when you have a job that perhaps didn't work out and you left and it wasn't on good terms. When you interview, there are ways you can redirect that to be a positive. But if when you're interviewing, you focus on the negative or you say something that's that's interpreted as unprofessional about the job you just left. We can advise you, and we can help you choose your wording so that it comes across in a more positive way. And so, again, from an advisory standpoint, that's another free benefit.
With us is Lisa Gard, owner of Specialized Staffing, a recruiting firm that helps individuals, of course, get jobs, change careers, and many more things too. Now, what types of jobs specifically do you work with? Because you don't cover like the whole gamut, do you? You don't cover all industries that are out there.
You know, Tracy, I think you have a crystal ball today, because you are just going right to the next point that I want to make, and that is, no, we actually don't work across all segments of business, but that's one of the points I want to make about a benefit of working with recruiters. It's so beneficial to find a recruiter that specializes in the type of work you're looking for. There are recruiting firms that specialize just in IT, or just in accounting, or just in human resources, or just in manufacturing. You know, these are industry segments that you can certainly apply with a staffing firm or a recruiting firm that is, we call it blended, where, you know, they do across a number of business segments. But it certainly does benefit you if you have an industry specialty to find a recruiter that also specializes in that. So we, for example, specialize in administrative and professional staffing. We work largely with manufacturing firms in the salaried exempt levels of production management and engineering, but also in the administrative functions, accounting, finance, human resources. So we're somewhat blended, and we do work in some service industries as well, but in those particular fields, accounting, finance, administration. But there are recruiting firms that specialize in other areas. Now, also geography is something to consider. We all know that there are small local firms like ours. Ours is more regional, but there are also national firms. And if you're looking to work in a specific geography, it does benefit you to look at the staffing and recruiting firms that work in that local area and who are locally rooted, because people do business with people they know and like. So there are a lot of very solidly forged relationships that local firms have with their local and regional businesses that the national firms, they may work with them, but the relationships might not be as strong. So it certainly is a benefit to check out the geographical location of recruiting firms as well.
If I am to come into you and try to find another job, maybe I'm in the wrong industry, if you will you be able to point me in the right direction? Do you have suggestions that you give to people?
Yes,
okay.
Including recruiting firms. We've forged relationships with a lot of recruiting firms that place candidates in fields you just don't touch. And it certainly benefits us to do that, because if you come to us and we can't help you in terms of placing you, at least if you walk away feeling like you got something, you know, even if that was a referral to a firm that can help you. And we do the same for our customers. If I have a customer who's looking for somebody, you know, in their production facility to run a CNC machine, I don't do that. However, I do know of a firm that does. And so it's a benefit to my client to be able to refer them.
So, Lisa, if I'm going to come into Specialized Staffing for the very first time, it's nice to hear you talk. It gives me some information, but what am I expected to bring? Do I bring a resume, cover letter? Do I come with nothing? What do we start with?
Sure. Most of our candidates, you know, technology is so awesome. So most of our candidates now contact us online, and you can apply online. The website is www.thebestworkwithus.com. And yes, that's different. It used to be specializedstaffinginc.com, but we've changed it. And so that's thebestworkwithus.com. And you can apply online. You can send us your resume online. And you will actually receive an online application to complete in advance, so that all that's done. So when you walk in the door, there aren't tons of forms to fill out anymore. What you do want to bring is identification, proof of ID. And what you can expect is you'll meet with a recruiter. You'll probably be in our office for about an hour. and we'll go over your work history. We'll talk about things like your reasons for leaving and what you're looking for in terms of pay rate and types of companies and types of roles. And also, and this is very important, be prepared with references. And when I say references, I don't mean friends. We really like to talk to people who have been your boss. If you're looking for a position in management, we'd like to talk to people who've been subordinates, and also would like to talk to peers. And the reason we do that, again, this is a benefit for you. We reach out to your references and we talk to them and they tell us what a rock star you are. And we actually can use that when we introduce you to our clients. It actually helps us get your foot in the door. And it also makes, you can make sure that your references are good. If all they're doing is verifying your dates of employment, that's fine. But we'll get back to you and say it would really be helpful if you'd find somebody for us to talk to that can tell us what a great employee you were or tell us what a great boss you were. And when the story's good, people will talk. I will tell you, a lot of companies or a lot of candidates will say, well, I can give you names, but all they'll do is they'll verify dates of employment. Yeah, typically somebody in the organization is honed in on that policy. But if you were really an awesome employee, there's somebody that's going to tell us about it.
Lisa, can you clarify something for me just for a moment? Because I know with you being a recruiting firm, Specialized Staffing, doing the great work that they do, we're talking about you, of course, working for your clients, which are the companies, but getting people jobs. And for me, trying to get a job, I hear the word apply or application, and all of a sudden I think, but wait a minute, that I'm working with you. I mean, it muddies the water a little bit. So what do you mean by application or apply to Specialized Staffing, and how does that differ when you're applying to get a job?
Well, it doesn't. Just like any other company, we have an application. And so when you go online, it will ask you your dates of employment. It will ask you what your hourly rate was or what your salary was, just like an application anywhere. You're applying with us. As a staffing firm, we employ you. As a recruiting firm, we're placing you and we're not employing you. But when we're a staffing firm, when we're acting as a staffing firm and we're employing you, you're actually getting your paycheck from us. So you've got to fill out a job application. You've got to fill out some payroll paperwork, a W-4 form, an I-9 form. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about benefits. Yay, it's always great to talk about them. But what about the cons? Are there any drawbacks to going through this process?
I really can't think of any drawbacks other than if you're working with a firm or if you try to work with a firm that really doesn't specialize in your field and they're not upfront with you to tell you that, then you might just be wasting your time. But for the most part, there really is no downside to working with a staffing firm unless, of course, if you're applying with the wrong firm. So, and by that I mean, too, there are firms that specialize in temporary work. If you're only looking for permanent work, then make sure the staffing firm you're applying to places people in permanent positions. If you're only looking for contract work, then make sure you're applying with a staffing firm that does contract work.
Lisa Gard, Specialized Staffing, of course, based right here in Butler County, but yet reaching quite a distance even into Ohio, various different areas and counties. Now, people have heard us for quite some time say Specialized Staffing online. You mentioned just a couple of minutes ago that you changed your website. Talk about that for a moment. What was the inspiration to do that? And remind us of the new website to catch you at.
Sure. Well, what inspired us to do that, we started thinking last year about our 20th anniversary, which will be this July. So we've been around for 20 years. Can't believe it. And we decided that we wanted to do some special things this year, have some special promotions. We'll have some sort of an event in July. More details that will come. But as a result, we were looking at our logo. We wanted to add the 20 years to our logo. And just as a result of looking into all that, part of our logo says the best work with us. And we realized that was available for a website, and we just loved it. And it isn't quite as long as specializedstaffinginc.com, and it's easier to say.
Yeah, it flows off the tongue.
So that's what inspired the change to thebestworkwithus.com. And when you visit thebestworkwithus.com, you are directed to our website. On the website, there's information about us. There's the website's new. Actually, you can see each member of our team. There's a short video clip of each of us, and also we talk about what we do. But also, you can see the types of opportunities we work on. And there's also a link to our career portal, which is myspecializedcareer.com. And that portal is a resource for job seekers. There are many different links there. There are resume templates. If you need to update your resume, you can go in there and you can enter the information and it will actually format your resume for you. There are links to all of the job boards. You create one login and then you can go in and you can search all the job boards at once without having to log into each one. And then also, there's some pretty interesting webinars on this website. Twice a month, there are job seeker webinars. In fact, this month in March, the next webinar is titled Ignite Your Job Search with Confidence. And that webinar is next Wednesday, March 29th at 1 o'clock. And there's a link to that webinar if you visit us at thebestworkwithus.com and then click on that My Specialized Career portal. But this is great if somebody's feeling like the job search is pretty much a defeating experience. You know, we were talking about some of the frustrations, but this really helps candidates shift their perspective to a more self-confident, perspective. Also, discovering how easily you can change your self-image. Searching for a job, especially if you don't have a job, it can be very emotional. This webinar will talk about how to manage those emotions, how to really build and strengthen your attitude. And this would be a great webinar for somebody to attend if you're looking for work. So again, that is the bestworkwithus.com, and then logging into the My Specialized Career site.
Lisa, I want to ask you about your contact information and then your final thoughts on the importance of working with a recruiting firm. But first, let's get the contact information. I know you just mentioned the website, but it does roll off the tongue, so let's say it again.
Sure. The website is thebestworkwithus.com. Our phone number is 724-287-8380. You can visit us at 130 South Main Street. And just final thoughts, it's just so beneficial to work with recruiters. Again, it's a one-stop meeting. There are so many lasting benefits you have. You can always call us back in the future, talk to us about what's changed. We can update your information. We can help you with your job search on an ongoing basis. And, there are people out there. Interestingly, as we're looking at celebrating our 20 years, I've been reaching out to people that we've placed 20 years ago that are still in the same companies but have moved up, have been promoted. There are people who are now our client because we placed them and they've gotten promoted into that position. And so we look forward to sharing some of those stories moving forward. But, I welcome anybody to call. If you have questions about working with us, we'll be happy to answer them.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to ask you that. If I just have a question about, am I in the right place? Can I contact you some way, whether it be phone or email?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Lisa Gard, Specialized Staffing, of course, based here in Butler. Now, remind us really quickly, because we do have about 30 seconds left or a minute left. Where else do you reach?
Well, we reach up and down the 79 corridor to Erie and then across 90 into Buffalo, New York, and to Cleveland, Ohio.
Boy, a lot of reach. Hey, Lisa, you're doing such a great job. I can say happy anniversary early, but we'll keep saying it because it is going to be this
Thanks,
year.
Tracy.
But Lisa Gard, Specialized Staffing, thanks so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
And thank you, folks, for joining us. Of course, you can catch this show again online. It'll be our podcast of the day, WISR680.com. I'm Tracy Morgan with Let's Talk.